Come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready. Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Yeah, I never noticed that cup of cappuccino there beside the Wook. John Voight, who drew that, must have known that the Wookiee has a sweet spot for cappuccino.
Mm-hmm.
It's a well-produced video introduction. I want to get through this numbskull fairly quickly, but I think it's important to mention him. He is one of the most preferred talking heads to discuss the failure of America and the Ukraine, using the Ukraine as a proxy against Russia, and Trump's utter fiasco in Iran. He has gradually, over these last months, removed the veil. What you see there is a very dark soul. He is wholly and completely consumed by anti-Semitism. And his diatribes now against Israel are some of the most revolting I have ever heard. He is no better than the fake and fraud that was the protocols of the elders of Zion. And in this particular case, he claims that no president can stand up to the Jewish lobby, not recognizing that the Jewish lobby isn't even in the top 10 in terms of donors seeking influence in the U.S. government. To condemn the Jewish lobby is to say, I am a ruthless, disgustable, ignorant, and irrational anti-Semite who don't like my life, don't like my country, don't like anything associated with reality, and I must slime those that I hold responsible for my miserable, unhappy condition. And this time, he praises George W. Bush, somebody that I happen to know a whole lot better than he knew. And I can tell you, when I met George W. Bush, for the first time, I came to the immediate conclusion that he was a numbskull, that he didn't have 5 brain cells to rub together. And in my first meeting, he told me that if elected, he would immediately engage America in war because he wanted to be a wartime president, because in wartime, Americans rally around their presidents and they become impenetrable. And so that is what he wanted to achieve. And of course, immediately he went to war, declaring war against Afghanistan and Iraq, both of which had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. And made a mess of things. And I did 5,000 radio interviews to prove that he had only engaged to make a bad situation worse. All the while, this boy was out there playing soldier as part of the team that was making a bad situation worse. Do not listen to this slime ball. He is no better than Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, or Nick Fuentes. Scum.
Yeah. I woke up this morning and stubbed my toe. I did not blame the Jews. So it's, I mean.
Listen, Israel has done many things, including, we'll watch this little video here. They had done many things to injure itself. And the government of Israel, the IDF, the Mossad, the Shin Bet, the voters on the Black Plague, the voters of the Pink Plague, all deserve condemnation for what they have done to destroy Israel. But Israel has destroyed itself, and that must be exposed. Israel did nothing to turn Trump into Satan, other than be as blind as everyone else in the world to that reality. All right, so this is a TBN presentation, and TBN wants to support the war the wars that Israel is fighting. And so this TBN journalist, Trinity Broadcasting Network journalist, is claiming that he is in a facility in Lebanon, and that there are holes in the walls of this facility that go into other facilities that were used exclusively for Hezbollah terror purposes, and that Lebanon is just like Gaza in that every other building is a facility for Hezbollah, and every slice of earth is a tunnel for war materials. And so he says that Israel must fight this war and must remove Hezbollah from Lebanon. That sounds great if you're thoughtless. That sounds great if you're ignorant. That sounds great if you can't put things together and you have no clue as to who Hezbollah is and why fighting a religious foe like Islam with bullets and bombs always makes the situation worse. How well did it work for you, pal, when Israel went and bombed every other building in Gaza to get rid of Hamas? Are you able to admit that Hamas is still there? Are you able to admit that by bombing and destroying Gaza, that you destroyed Israel? Are you willing to admit that? Because that's what you need to admit, that you were wrong, that bombing a religious foe strengthens them. Look what happened in the Iran war. Yeah. Look what happened in Gaza. Look what happened in every one of the Hezbollah wars in Lebanon. You continue to make bad situations worse, just as George W. Bush did when he decided to have shock and awe in Iran and in Afghanistan. You made a bad situation worse. And you're continuing to do the same thing because you're functionally insane, repeating the same behavior and expecting a different result.
Yeah, I watched the video and I was a little confused about what was going on, because he says that, you know, there's holes in the wall where that they can attack, you know, and then they show the wall with the clothing cover. I was like, where are the holes, dude? I mean, can you move the clothes and show, you know? I was like, and then to go outside and to show, well, we had to demolish this building. I'm like, that's not a good look, man. I mean, this pile of rubble that you guys, it's a clothing shop. No. It's not a good look.
It's not a good look. It was just, you can play a little bit of it, sure.
This tells you the full story. I am in a clothing shop, climbing over the clothes.
The full story.
El Khiyam, the village. Yeah. This room is where Hezbollah terrorists use this space to launch missiles at Israeli armed forces and Israeli communities. There are holes in the wall behind me. I don't know if you can see them. Right behind me in the wall, there's holes through which the Hezbollah terrorists crossed, come back here, camera, crossed into different buildings to launch missiles at Israel. And I want to show you the outcome. Here's the end result. Look behind me.
Yeah.
This is the other side. The IDF has had to come through and demolish. Why did they have to demolish? They had to demolish because in every other house, yes, every other house in Lebanon, every other house, there is Hezbollah infrastructure in this part of Lebanon and all of Lebanon. We're talking cameras, we're talking missiles, we're talking
cameras,
tunnels like the one we saw in the clothing shop.
They're watching
again and again, everywhere you go,
talking
you find
clothing
that
shops
time and time again. That is the explanation for why this level of destruction appears behind me. This is what the IDF had to do to remove Hezbollah from this part of the world.
Going to remove Hezbollah from this part of the world. Yeah. He's claiming that every other building in the whole of Lebanon, in all of Lebanon, every other building is Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure.
Yeah.
If it were, and it isn't, then you would have to destroy all of Lebanon. And you can't.
Yeah.
So if that was the case, just give up now. I mean, seriously, there's nothing, if that were true, there's absolutely nothing that could be done. It's already over. but it's not true. And you do what you showed out there, and you turn Lebanon into Gaza without any evidence that you're even doing something that's sane.
Mm-hmm.
Then why don't you consider what happened to Israel when you destroyed Gaza? Was Gaza, the Gazan Muslims, the victims, or was Israel the victim? Because I'm here to tell you, it's pretty obvious to everyone in the world outside of idiots like you that destroying Gaza destroyed Israel.
Mm-hmm.
That Israel paid the greatest price because it was isolated from the entire world and demonized for having done so. Now, I understand the motivation, but that motivation was to play Israel to being this foolish. Insanity. I mean, so is everything that Israel has done governmentally has been insane. And you can't get through to people like this. A bad look.
It is a bad look. It was
This is-
Geraldo's safe all over again.
Yeah, this is an interesting presentation. A guy makes some interesting points. One is that he talks about Trump at Wharton, which is part of the Penn Business School. And he says, he was totally failed as a student, never made even the dean's list. Can you imagine that? I mean, it's pretty easy to make the dean's list if you're in the school there. But anyway, he didn't. He was a completely uninterested, unappealing student. He gets out with all of daddy's money and over time actually performs far worse than the market, has 6 bankruptcies, and that he didn't even write the Art of the Deal. The man who actually wrote the Art of the Deal feels tragic about having written it because he knows that Trump was wholly unqualified for any position in business, much less public office. And he goes on to say that the only reason for the Iran war is Trump is continuing to look for distractions for the Epstein experience.
Yeah.
Pretty devastating.
Anything to distract from that. Absolutely. I mean, I honestly think that the reflecting pool is becoming that as well. It's becoming a distraction for his original distraction that was a distraction.
Every post that he makes, every insane comment that he makes is a distraction from the distraction from the distraction from the distraction. And he creates this utter avalanche of chaos to draw people away from exposing and condemning him for the vile pedophile and rapist that he really is. Because they know that even crooks don't like pedophiles and rapists.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You go to prison as a pedophile and a rapist, you're in deep trouble because even the thugs don't like pedophiles and rapists. And that's what he is. And that's where he's going. He's going to pedophile and rapist prison. Oh my God, Netanyahu, just shut up. Hezbollah's on the run. God, how many lies are you going to have to take? How many wars are you going to have to fight? This never-ending war on behalf of Israel has grown so old that Israel has destroyed itself. You pushed yourself in a position where you had one ally in the world, and he just happens to be the corporeal manifestation of Satan. He is the great betrayer. He is Rahab, and he is your only damn ally, and now he even hates your guts. So this man has single-handedly destroyed the worldwide reputation of an entire country.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is, while there are some Jews that are finally waking up to this reality, they got nobody to replace him.
Yeah, nobody's sane.
Oh my God, Israel is a mess of 3 groups. His Likud right-wing nutcases, the Haredi that are nothing but the Black Plague, and then the pink pandemic on the other side that would rather celebrate their sexuality than come up with a solution that can salvage the country.
Yeah.
Over the years that he has been prime minister, he has absolutely destroyed Israel.
He's finally getting some pushback, but it's not coming from any place. Like you said, there's no viable replacement. They're just going to fall apart.
Yeah,
The
it's a
only
little
functioning.
bit like it's a little bit like the United States, where Trump is far worse than Netanyahu. Trump is just pure evil, but because the Democrats have gone full Marxist, they're out of touch with the mainstream of America, and they've got their 40% that are asinine Marxists that don't have a brain, don't have any functioning conscience, have no functional experience in reality. That group is not going to be a threat to Trump. And because the party is so communistic, they aren't willing to, as a group, nominate somebody who is moderate, who is who can resonate with the core of America. So they just consider the fact that, well, Trump is so bad that it doesn't matter who they present, and that's just not true. I mean, you get the idiots like the mayor of DC and the mayor of New York that are Marxists who can win in a environment where all you have to do is win the Democratic primary, because the Democrats are about 65% Marxist at this point, according to the most recent polls. When they poll Democrats now, it's about 35% that are in favor of capitalism and 65% that prefer Marxism. That this is really a dark situation. We're in a place where there are only Democrat voters, like New York and Washington, D.C. Whoever wins the Democratic primary wins the election. So they can do it there. But that's not the case in national elections.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the case in California for a statewide position, but very few other places.
And you're right. Just run somebody that's not nuts, that's not a Marxist psychopath. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they could win an election, and they can't even do that. They can't find one person, that within their own ranks, Democratic, that is moderately centrist, even a little bit not.
No, even Natali had to partner with Lapid to garner enough to be a credible threat to him. And so he's partnering with a Marxist, and that isn't going to prevail. That Israel is in a really, really bad spot. The only way that Israel, we know, is not going to prevail. It's, as a state, it's checkmate. They put themselves in a position where now they have no more options. So it is checkmate. So all we're doing is watching window dressing as they change the curtains on the windows. But the storm is already upon them. And the prophets predicted that, of course. But for Israel, if you could turn back the clock, the first thing you would have to do is eliminate all privilege for the Haredi. And since the Haredi won't participate in this society, they don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to go to schools where they can be of value to the society. They want to be paid for being parasites. The immediate thing that should have happened is that they should have been precluded from voting. If they precluded from voting, they would have no influence, and they would have been all sidelined and forced to fend for themselves, and they could not have done so. So that's the first thing: is their vote has to be repelled when they refuse to engage in the IDF, pay taxes, or even work for a living, as opposed to being parasites. And the other is that the Marxism that is blossomed in Tel Aviv has to be checked. You can't have a country that is being collectivized. Israel cannot survive that. So you got these two sides that are nuts, and then of course Israel doesn't even have a constitution, so it has no way to even put limits on their judiciary branch, because there is no constitution that says what they're limited to doing. And they have a parliamentary system, which is the systems of bribes. You put together coalitions by bribing people. It's really a horrendous mess. And and with them putting themselves in a position where the entire world has turned against them because of their response to 10/7 and destroying Gaza, and then going into Lebanon not once but twice, and declaring war on Iran and bombing them not once but twice, and completely failing on both occasions. It's just let the anti-Semitism brew around the world until such point as virtually everyone is condemning Israel. And while we will bleed and die for Israel, I am not bleeding and dying for their government, for their judiciary, for their Haredim, for their Marxists. I'm sorry, but you're part of the problem.
Yeah. And it really surprised me because, we say Tel Aviv as the Marxist in Tel Aviv, but it wasn't until October 7th that I came to understand through, researching with you that the kibbutzim are Marxist. I mean, you think of these rural areas being, because here in the United States, rural areas tend to be more conservative, right? There's this idea of people working. Exactly. It just
there was a thing about 10/7 that was so astonishing, is that the liberals in the kibbutzim in southern Israel were the most pro Fakistinians. They wanted everybody to just get along. They brought them into their communities. They employed them. They encouraged them. They did everything they could to try to integrate them into their society, not knowing that Islam is wholly incompatible with Marxism. And it blew up in their faces, and they didn't have the wherewithal to admit it. That's the reason why the parents of the abductees were all anti-government, because they were all exceedingly liberal. And the kibbutzim was the first worldwide expression of Marxism. They were Marxists before Karl Marx wrote Das Kapital, and it is a completely failed system. And so when Israel was founded, what you had was a whole series of Marxists and communists run the country. So the country wasn't founded on any principles that you would now associate with Israel, particularly the Torah Israel. It was founded by Marxists. And even the IDF was created by armed groups that tried to defend Jews in pre-Israel, restored Israel now. And they were mostly kids from the kibbutzim. So they were Marxist too. And so almost all of the leaders early on of the IDF were also Marxists. And so this has been a serious problem for Israel, because Marxists are wholly disconnected from reality in terms of both human nature, who God is, what our purpose is, and collectivized man is always worse than individual man. So, you've got the Haredim that are the Black Plague on one side and the Marxist influence on the other. Ooh, this is a country that can't be salvaged, and particularly now that it's been checkmated.
Yeah.
So, did you listen to any of this? This is pretty amazing.
I did. Yes, I listened to it, and it is the typical. The Old Testament says, and so that means that the New Testament, falls right in line with it. Right?
Yeah. This idiot does not know that he has also been played. He says, that Israel is called my son by Yahweh. Israel's called my chosen by Yahweh. That Israel has all of the favored status from God throughout the Torah and the prophets. And so his conclusion is, well, then Israel is no more, because in the New Testament, it says all of these things belong to Jesus. So Jesus is the replacement for Israel. Well, if he's the replacement for Israel, then your religion doesn't work, pal. because, because all the things Yahweh had to say about Israel are about a return to the Torah, and they revolve around Yahweh, not Jesus. So Jesus can't be Israel, and all you did is you backtracked. It is there's all these emphasis all the way through time, even to the last days, and Yahweh's commitment to restore Israel. So you just made your fraud, your caricature, it modeled the prophecies. So he didn't fulfill the prophecies. You just wrongly applied prophecies to him and didn't know that when you did, what you did is destroy your religion. Because it's one thing for you to claim to replace Israel, which is brain dead, because that means your God was a liar.
Yeah,
it means he was a liar. I mean, every promise he made to Israel, which are thousands upon thousands of them all the way through the end of the time, means that God got all of his end times prophecies wrong and that he is a liar who cannot be trusted. That's not a very good God, but that's what it is necessary for you to claim replacement theology. But now what he's doing is claiming that Jesus is Israel. Jesus is Israel. And what in the hell are you? You know, yeah, that's about as deadly as it gets for you, because your New Testament condemns Israel.
Oh yeah,
and replaces Israel. And now you're claiming that your Jesus is Israel. Somebody ought to thought that through before you opened your yap and made an idiot of yourself. But heck, what your audience wouldn't have any appreciation for, because Christians don't think, they believe.
Yeah, we just want a straight line into, we're the chosen ones now. We, all you got to do is believe.
Nope. It didn't say that they were said that it says that their Jesus was the chosen one, that their Jesus was Israel. But then why do you condemn Israel in your New Testament? That might be a logical fallacy there, pal. You want to check. You want to check your rhetoric.
I don't know. I didn't even try it yet.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I know we have some really smart computer whiz kids in our Covenant community, and he has two of them that he said that are interesting. And I do know that paying Microsoft for things like Word is counterproductive, because it's a really crappy program, and they have only in that position because of their monopoly, which was really sinister in the way they created it, and having the new AI functions within Microsoft infect your computer makes them just so much more difficult to use. So getting around Microsoft is a worthy endeavor, but I have no idea whether or not it's right or not.
And I have a feeling maybe our resident tech expert in the background here can pipe in that this 4 keystroke thing that brings up the whole suite of windows is probably just their 30-day trial all over again. Start using it, and then we own all your documents. Okay.
Yeah, then we own all your documents.
They don't want you to work on your local drive. They want you to use OneDrive. And what I found is your local documents mysteriously wind up on OneDrive.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so tired of things going to OneDrive that I ended up deciding that I would write on a external hard drive. And so every book that I write, every chapter that I write, everything that I do, everything that I save and then redeploy for communication purposes, all of it is on an external hard drive, and that's so I'm working off an external hard drive all day.
Yeah, well, you are in the text world, so you're dealing with big documents. For you are 500 kilobytes, right? I mean, you can write 500 and 600 page Word documents or PDFs even, and they're still in kilobytes, under 2 megs. In our world of video, 2 megs is nothing. That's not 3 seconds of video. So with 2 hours of video to edit, I mean, you burn up a lot of space, gigabytes, real fast. And then trying to transfer those between people, it gets a little, and OneDrive doesn't solve that problem. It's just, it just fills up fast. And they're like, hey, pay us more money, pay us more money.
Yeah, we have a lot of probably half a dozen here, 20 terabyte, and even 40 terabyte
Yeah.
storage, external hard drives that are for storage, and you can store a lot on multiple 20 terabyte external drives. The only issue is that in today's world, it's one thing to work on these things, and that requires a faster processor and particularly graphics capability, but it's another to stream them. So working on them is hard. Storing them is not that big a deal today, but it's streaming them again that's difficult, and that's the reason we still have to play in the polluted pond of social media, is because they own the ability to stream data like this. Storing it, no big deal. Streaming it, different story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jesus brings clarity. How can Jesus bring clarity? How much did Jesus write?
Nothing.
I don't. Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
The person that invented Jesus, how much did he quote from Jesus?
Nothing.
Not once.
Not one word. So the person who invented Jesus in 52 CE, 20 years after the fact, was Paul, and he never cited him once. Never cited him once. And he claimed that he's representing this person that he has created called Jesus, and never cited him once. And then the first quote unquote gospels use Paul's term. Paul was the one who says that that he is the master of the gospel, and that if heaven has a gospel that is, and he called it a euangelion, but if heaven has a euangelion that is different than his euangelion, then his matters and heaven's does not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the definition of evangelion. It's according to Paul. And the two people that wrote the first two of them, Mark and Luke, both worked for Paul. And they both wrote in 75 CE. So the first words that could be attributed to mythical Jesus came by way of Paul's devotees in 75 CE, which is over 40 years after the fact. Because quite conveniently, Jesus never wrote anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the earliest you have anything from him is 40 years later. Can you imagine the likelihood, even if he existed and he didn't, getting anything right?
Well, he couldn't even get his name right.
Couldn't even get his name right. Of course, there was no Iesu Christou or Jesus Christ in first century Yehuda. So they got nothing right. And they claim that, in fact, you can play just a little bit of this, because he talks about it being intentional that these things happened. And I'm going to agree with him. It's an intentional fraud.
Christians are divided on Israel. So who are God's people today? Watch the titles God uses. I think this is going to help. In the Old Testament, Israel is called chosen, Deuteronomy 7, holy, Leviticus 20, beloved, Deuteronomy 7, God's son, Exodus 4. But then Jesus shows up, and he is called the chosen one, Matthew 12, the holy one, Mark 1, the beloved son, Matthew 3. This is intentional. Jesus is stepping into Israel's role. Old Testament Israel wasn't the...
That's enough. That's enough. No, Jesus never existed. It's the fraudsters that created the identity theft fraud, that created this belief system that he was real, because they stole claims that were made of others, whether that claim was made of Israel or the claim was made of Dowd. Mm-hmm. They simply stole claims that were made of others, and they applied them to their myth. You got played. And the whole process was intentional. Duh. The whole thing. Christianity is a lie from beginning to end. It is all based on stealing. Stealing promises made to Israel, stealing promises that were made to Dowd, stealing achievements of Israel, stealing achievements of Dowd, stealing the attributes of Yahweh and the prophetic claims that Yahweh made, and applying them to themselves. It is nothing but a repulsive and intentional fraud.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you expect drug dealers to do? That's what drug dealers do. They steal and they deal drugs. I mean, and
Yes.
so that's what Paul is. Christus, you know.
Christus is based upon the Greek word for the application of drugs. There is no title anywhere close to a Christus or a Christone or a Christu anywhere in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. There is no basis for it of any kind. It is not a last name. It is not a divine title. It is not a prophetic title. None of it. It is, the whole thing was based just on the dumbest of all dumb lies, and then backfilled over time. Where even you are the Christu, and upon this rock I will build my church. Not a word of that was actually spoken. It was all written by Eusebius in the 4th century. I mean, you just got played, numbskull.
Yeah.
Give it up. Stop promoting the lie.
This one was interesting. The idea that they were going to arm the Kurds to take over Iran, you know.
I don't know if you recall
the name that comes up
9 months ago. Yeah, going back 9 months ago, maybe a year ago, could have been even over a year ago. There was the rumor that was beginning to come out of the Kurdish community that Donald Trump was offering them weapons if they would rise up against the established government of Iran. This was, of course, long before the second phase of the war. And when I heard that, my comment was, don't do it if you're the Kurds. You have been played by the United States on 3 different times. All 3 times you were promised a country by the United States, and you were armed as proxies to go fight perceived terrorists, and you got your hand clobbered. You got played, and you got nothing for it other than to die. Each time betrayed by the United States and the CIA. Don't do it. Now, I feel sorry for the Kurds. I mean, they are the largest ethnic group in the world without a homeland to call their own. They were horribly abused by the Iraqis. They're still horribly abused by the Iranians, and they are hunted down viciously by the Turks. And the Kurds are actually pretty decent people. That probably the nicest group of Muslims on the planet would be the Kurds. I mean, shame on them for continuing to be Muslims when they're actually pretty decent people. So they're really crappy Muslims. But every time they try to accept a deal from the West so that they can be independent of those trying to perpetrate genocide on them, which would be Erdogan and Turkey, the Iranians, and when Saddam Hussein was ahead of Iraq, it's blown up in their faces because the West can't be trusted. And so what Trump was trying to do was create the illusion of a popular uprising in Iran so that he could justify going to war to save those freedom fighters from that terrible regime. But it was all a lie. The CIA and the Mossad were inspiring the freedom fighters and were arming them and were paying for them to do that. And then they were grossly exaggerated by tenfold the number that were being killed during the non-peaceful protests. And the most of the weapons were funneled in by the Kurds, and many of the provocateurs were Kurds, but they didn't get near the participation that they expected. And part of that is because when Trump was entertained this and was committed to doing it, and then his pal Erdogan said, "No, we don't want you to do that because we're threatened by the Kurds. We don't want you to arm them." And Trump backed down. And so the whole Kurd thing was shelved. But it was an essential part of the regime change operation that when it would not have worked because America would have betrayed the Kurds, and because the Kurds don't represent a large enough group within Iran, and because the West can't be trusted. But once that ploy was taken off the table, there was zero chance that the war should have been fought for the purpose of regime change.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, who is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad? Where do I know that name from?
Okay, he was an Iranian that was a quasi hardliner. He was a fairly entertaining fellow that won on a series of elections for the Iranian to be head of the Iranian parliament, president of Iran. He was functionally was under the mullahs, but he's somebody that the West liked to talk with because he would give lip service to both sides. He would give lip service to the West, saying, "Yeah, I'm with you. We're going to, modernize Iran, and let's partner together to get this done." And then he would play with the mullahs and say, "Hail be to Allah, Allahu Akbar." And so he was an entertaining fellow. He eventually lost elections and he was voted out of power.
Okay.
He was just kind of hanging around as a wannabe then in Iran. But for some reason, the CIA thought that they could control him, and that if they brought him back to power, they could control Iran again. But yeah, it's foolishness. That's as foolish as thinking they're going to bring the Shah back.
A former president of Iran. Okay, that's why because for a second I thought there's no way this is the guy that they install as president of Afghanistan, is it? Because but it's not the same guy.
No, it's a former president of Iran.
Okay.
And I think he got killed in this whole process, but I'm not positive. But
I'm sure.
I think he's dead. So this fellow, his conclusions are that Trump is so desperate to end this war that he doesn't care what the terms are.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he signed the surrender documents, not even knowing they were surrender documents, didn't read them. He doesn't know what he agreed to do. And all he's got is threats now. He's violating his own agreement with the threats. He actually threatened to kill all of the Iranian negotiators that had arrived in Switzerland. That's why they all went back. They said, "No, we're just not going to deal with this idiot. We're here to negotiate on one point of the agreement. He's threatening to kill us. No, I think we're done here." Mm-hmm. And so his conclusion is that the U.S. will continue to siphon money to Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, that it will reopen because America is offering so much money to Iran that they will open it for the purposes of taking in tens of billions and then hundreds of billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. But for the moment now, the Strait of Hormuz is open to all those in affiliation with Iran and closed to all others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Surprise, they're going to funnel cash.
Oh, they already are. And it's already
declared. They already are. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a little bit behind the curve on all of this. I watched this. This is really the life of Karl Marx. It is really dark. Oh, what a dark life. It's amazing that he would die alone. He had, I think, 10, 11 people at his funeral, essentially an unmarked grave. His children all died. He was thrown out of country after country after country. He's just a malcontent that wanted to completely tear apart society and build a new society in his image, but his image was very, very dark and sinister. And he read the works of others that said that men had created God rather than God creating men. And it's true, the religious gods are created by men. And he came to believe that his life was miserable because of the conspiracy of that there's this cabal that maneuvers everything for the benefit of the few and against the many. And he tried to inspire various protests, and each of his protests failed. The only place that he could even was allowed to live was in a hovel, very dark hovel in London. And at the very end of his life, he published Das Kapital, but Das Kapital is really just an essay on capitalism in London at the time, and it isn't a manifesto for anything.
Mhm.
It is only because Engels decided that he would write volumes 2 and volumes 3 based upon his conversation and overall notes and that sort of thing. It was Engels that really is the one that deserves credit, and he continued to promote it under Marx's name. And within 50 years of his death, half the world was enslaved to his communist agenda. It's very much like Paul. Paul died completely alone, miserable, demon possessed, haunted by the travesty that he'd brought upon himself. And yet within a couple of hundred years of his death, the world was infected by the religion he created. Karl Marx had a shorter period of time, but similar results. A very dark man taking the world to a very dark place.
And for people, Paul and Carl here, that never did anything in their lives to benefit another person. They never created anything of value. I mean, these guys, these intellectuals, they never had jobs. They're hanging out in the bars and drinking and talking intellectual stuff to themselves, and they've never done anything productive in their
anything. That's the story. If you look at America's Democrats running as Marxists, Cackles never had a job. Obama never had a job. Bernie Sanders has never had a job. AOC never had a job. Oh, she was a bartender once. Okay. Well, there you go. So she's the exception to the rule. She was a bartender. It just is pathetic. The garbage that people will consume. But it's all because there are people who latch onto it and promote the nonsense, and the most of the influencers of the world are wrong.
Well, I want other people's stuff. Gimme, and I'm not powerful enough by myself I'm not even productive enough to go take somebody else's stuff. I need to have other people go take other people's stuff for me, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
communism. Yeah, communism is wimpy people calling other people to be violent and steal for them. That's Islam. Islam is Muhammad was a wimp, and he cajoled by lies, religious lies, to get other people to go and hack other people to death, enslaving them and robbing them for his own self-aggrandizement. Same thing with Engels and Marx and Lenin and Stalin and all of these thugs. The Black Plague.
We got to watch this one. This is just so BLM-ish that I just okay. Here they come.
There's even worse ones. But yes, I'll look at this. And you know what the parasites are protesting?
They won't give them more free stuff, that they have to fight in the idea.
They're protesting that it's unfair to ask them to serve like every other Israeli. So they want their complete exemption from service in the IDF, which in Israel, it's every man, every woman, 2 years. But they can't be bothered. They don't want to serve. And by the way, it would be counterproductive to make them serve because they don't go to school to learn English, mathematics, or science. They're skilled in Yiddish and in the trash of the Talmud. They have no life skills at all. They're not even able to explore the internet, to be exposed to things and learn things. They're not able to think on their own. They are nothing but parasites. They are a travesty for the country. Country cannot use them. They cannot be integrated into the workforce. They have no skills. And the country pays them to be parasites. They're given a stipend at yeshivas to study the Talmud, which is religious trash, antagonizing God. And so they're protesting that the Netanyahu government that they were bribed to support has not given them the exemptions that they wanted and the subsidies that they wanted when they were bribed into joining that coalition. And the Netanyahu government can't give them to them, because the high court said, yeah, you can't do this. It's everybody has to serve. And there is no paying people to not work and not contribute to the society. So the high court won't allow it. And Netanyahu and knows that he wouldn't have the votes in the Knesset to push it through. But when Naftali was and Lapid were prime minister, they didn't have the courage to push it through either.
Yeah.
And so Israel is just damned if you do, damned if you don't. You can't resolve this problem. That because you haven't quarantined the rabbis and this Black Death of the Haredi, you're a country that is being eaten from the inside out.
Yeah. Well, the story for me here is normally the Haredi protest at noon. They go out and they protest at noon, and they're not getting any traction. They're on their protests or whatever. So this protest, they get up early and they go to block traffic for rush hour when productive people have to get to their productive jobs. That these people who normally can't be bothered and just get up at noon finally realize that we're not bothering anybody enough. Let's go bother the productive people earlier, and they have to get up early and go do that. And then this is what happens. Now, some of these hits,
you could hope that they would bother working and productive Israelis to the point that working and Israeli productive finally just say, let's just do away with the rabbis. Let's do away with Judaism. Let's do away with the Haredi. And the Haredi are the dominant force of Judaism in Israel. They're the only sect of Judaism that has any sway in Israel. The three Haredi parties are effectively the bloc that keeps the Netanyahu government going. And you'd say, okay, so that's a positive. These parasites are exposing themselves as the Black Plague. They will finally be sidelined, but Jews won't do that. They just won't do it, and it's too late anyway.
Yes, I'd say some of these guys in the police department have futures in the NFL, but then I look at who they're tackling, and it's like, no, they're not putting up much of a fight.
No wimps in the NFL. It's just the Black Death, and every one of these things. It doesn't matter which one you collect. Look at that. I mean, it's just the Black Plague. Useless, counterproductive parasites. Yeah. You know what they're protesting here? They some meaningless number, maybe 20 to 30. Of the Haredi youth that were drafted and didn't appear, that were told by the rabbis, don't go, even if you're drafted into the IDF, they were put in jail. And so these Black Plague promoters are protesting that those who disobeyed the draft orders are in jail. That's what they're protesting. So they're protesting outside the jail.
Broke the law.
Well, you have a country that is surrounded by 2 billion people that want to annihilate you. Yeah. And you have a people's army And rather than participate in it, rather than even pay for it, rather than support it, you make that same government pay you to be obnoxious towards it.
Yeah.
That might be a problem.
That's double dipping.
Yep.
I
And
mean,
they
not
even
only-
control, they control the immigration into Israel, where they will try to
Yes.
forestall anyone becoming an Israeli citizen that doesn't support their jaundiced view of life, their deadly perspective on everything. Well, Netanyahu, he is in quite the pickle. What people don't realize is he put himself there. You know, he is if he capitulates to Trump and he removes Israel from Lebanon again, and withdraws from Gaza again, then both wars are shown to be counterproductive. And of course, he's done fighting the Iranians. And so he would have lost all three wars at tremendous cost to Israel.
Mhm.
So if he capitulates to Trump, he has to swallow the fact that under his guidance, not only did Israel lose the last three wars, but that Israel isolated itself from the world in the process of losing three wars. And he is nothing but a stooge, and Israel is no longer an independent country. That's if he capitulates. And if he doesn't capitulate, then Israel is done, because 2/3 of its weapons and its only vote in favor of Israel in the United Nations comes from the United States.
Mhm.
And so if he continues to flaunt, we have to stay in Lebanon and fight there. We're going to stay in Gaza and fight there. And we have to continue to be able to fight the Iranians. And he is denying Trump, trying to end the war that Trump, of course, started. Then Israel can't survive without American weapons, and without America's vote in the United Nations is angry as the rest of the world is against them. So that's why it's checkmate for Israel. There are no more moves. It's too late to replace him. It's just over. And so he painted himself into a corner, and there are now only inevitable consequences, and it's the destruction of the state of Israel.
Mhm. And it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Social media did it. Social media did it. No, I listen. I'm with him in saying that social media is an anti-Semitic swamp. At X over this weekend, all my mid-size to smaller pro-Israel accounts that have spoken out against the memorandum of understanding, where Trump not only surrendered to Iran, but that he sacrificed Israel. The memorandum of understanding is a Neville Chamberlain moment. And every account that is a pro-Israeli account that speaks out against it has been suspended on X over the weekend.
Dozens and dozens.
Scores and scores. And the reasons for that, of course, is that Elon Musk is also a parasite. He's a governmental parasite. His business is run on government handouts. He is a product of government welfare. He plays government welfare better than anyone. And so to continue to get the government welfare that he needs for SpaceX and Tesla and the like, he must do what Trump wants. Trump's is just beside himself, being called out in social media for having surrendered to Iran. And so it's obvious that Trump told Musk, stop it. And accounts are being throttled too on Facebook. So Trump is now in a position as the godfather to threaten those who are benefiting from his crime spree. Now, so social media is rotten to the core, but social media isn't the cause of anti-Semitism. The cause of anti-Semitism starts with Christianity. Christianity is vile and it's anti-Semitism. Islam is vile in its anti-Semitism. Marxism is vile in its anti-Semitism. And between those three, you've got about 6 billion of the world's population.
Mhm.
So anti-Semitism is rooted in the religions, and I'm going to call Marxism, it's a religion of man. They said that man created God. And so in Marxism, man promotes himself to God. Those three religions are responsible for anti-Semitism. All social media does is it's the mouth for what has previously gone wrong in human society. So it's not the cause, it's not the reason for anything. It's the consequence of these things, not the cause of them. And when you don't understand cause and consequence, you do stupid things like destroy Gaza, go in and turn Lebanon into Gaza, or fight 2 unwinnable wars against Iran. You need to understand cause and consequence. And he obviously doesn't, because it's Judaism is responsible for Christianity, Islam, and Marxism. And the consequence of those religions is anti-Semitism.
Yeah. So much what we're seeing is Jew hatred or anti-Judaism, because I hate using the term anti-Semitism and applying it to Jews, because Jews themselves are the most anti-Shemitic people in the world. You know,
They are.
The people that were, they just hate Jews because they don't know Yahweh. They can't be against Yahweh's name. They can't be against Yahweh because they don't know him. Now, if they did, they would be against him. But Yehud are the ones. Jews are the ones that have written his name out of their life, and they are the most anti-Shemitic.
Yeah.
Both
the name of names, which is Shem, who became Dod, and the name of God, which is Yahweh. Both Shems, the rabbis in particular, have been the most anti-Shem people in the history of the world.
So it'd be nice if Netanyahu would just say, is a major reason for Jew hatred.
he just needs to go away. He does. I'm sorry, they have no one to replace him, but he needs to go away so that Israel can die a quiet death as opposed to catastrophic.
A soft landing.
Yeah, soft. Well, there's no soft landing. It's all going to come to total destruction over the next 7 years. The U.S. is losing the war in a catastrophic way. Because of Trump's idiocy. So you have periodical after periodical that is now willing to announce that America has lost its war with Iran. But America lost the war with Iran before it started the war with Iran. America positioned itself in a losing position when Trump bombed Iran early in his first year as Trump 47. Trump lost the war with Iran when he tore up the nuclear agreement that had been negotiated between 5 countries in Iran. When he tossed that away without anything to replace it, he lost the war with Iran. But the Americans really have lost the war with Iran way before Trump. When we had regime change to bring in the Shah, when we had regime change to bring in the Ayatollah, when we tried twice now with regime change with the Ayatollahs, America has been fighting a losing war with Iran for 70 years.
Yeah. For me, this picture and this headline, America has lost the war with Iran, just epitomizes, we have these very, very expensive aircraft on top of a very, very expensive aircraft carrier with these expensive bombs that take cost of a lot of money, are very difficult to produce. And what they lost to were drones and missiles and mountains. I mean, holes in the ground.
What they really lost to was buried infrastructure, because
Hmm.
America had, with its belligerence over 75 years, told and taught Iran and much of the rest of the world how you take a blow from America, how you deal with America. You don't trust America for anything. And so the strategy of Iran was to never trust America, to diversify so that if one facility was effective at producing the desired result, have at least 40.
Hmm.
And don't build anything on the surface that you have, that destroying it would be a problem for you. Everything that has value to you, you have to bury, and you either have to bury it more than 300 feet below the ground, or you have to put on deflecting concrete structure above it that diverts the bunker busters. America dropped so many bunker buster duds over the years that the Iranians reversed engineered them. They learned exactly how they operate, and so they have built an infrastructure that you could bomb Iran day and night for 10 years, and Iran would still be able to fire missiles and drones. But America also is, you're correct, that is a $150, $200 million airplane sitting on a $13 billion carrier with each munition costing tens of thousands of dollars per bomb. And Iran's able to outmaneuver it with $5,000 drones.
Hmm.
And so we don't even know how to fight the next war. That's why Trump wants to build battleships. I watched a movie last night on the Yamato, the biggest and most powerful battleship ever made. It's sitting at the bottom of the ocean now. It really took just one. They put it out to fight one battle, and one battle it ended up in the bottom of the sea. He wants to build battleships, and he wants to have a golden dome, a complete squandering of money and a misuse of resources. It's not how wars are going to be fought. And he spent 30, 40, 50 billion dollars losing to Iran, where the reparations would cost $330 billion.
Unfortunately, Israel is learning how this new war is being fought in Lebanon. I mean, you have pictures of, I saw 3 different videos come out over the weekend of Hezbollah consumer grade drones targeting and hitting is Israeli tanks, Israeli personnel carriers, big armor, expensive armor.
Yes.
And it was like,
actually, I don't think Israel is learning. What Israel is getting is bludgeoned.
yeah,
And they're really
yes.
getting beaten badly in Lebanon. That's why they've gone back to bombing buildings from the sky, and that, of course, brings back the ghosts of Gaza, which is devastating to them. They're getting beaten up by the drones, but Israel has bought into the American strategy of the really expensive, flashy, cutting edge manned fighter and submarines and all that kind of really expensive stuff. That's what they buy. That's what they put their money in. And the IDF doesn't realize that expensive stuff was useless on 10/7, completely and totally useless. And it will be totally useless in Alaska Flood 2.0, which will be fought over the next 7 years. Completely and totally useless. So they're bankrupting the country to buy the equipment of the last war. This is the equipment of World War II. Yeah, okay, so the fighter is fancier, but it's the equipment of World War II. It's not the equipment of World War III. And Israel bought into the same myth. It does not know who its enemy is or how to combat its enemy. And so,
yeah. They want to invest in a golden dome, and they'd be better off investing in netting and chicken wire. You look at Ukraine, that is what secures their places, their roads. They try to put netting up over all the roads. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's netting and chicken wire. Yeah, and that we have been shielded from much of what's happening, both good and bad. It depends on what your point of view is between Iran and Russia here. But the fact is that Starmer resigned today. The whole Putin strategy was with a limited response. He would protect the ethnic Russians who wanted to be part of Russia in Donbass and the eastern Ukrainian territories that were being attacked and bludgeoned by the American replacement regime in Ukraine. And so he went in to protect them from being annihilated by the American regime in Ukraine. And that's really all he wanted to do initially, and to keep NATO from advancing. And he did not want to escalate this to a full-blown war against Europe. But Europe now is giving him no choice. And his strategy was always that Starmer, Merz, and Macron are not long for this world. They had really low approval ratings, and they're the warmongers. When they're gone, and there's no chance that Macron is going to continue, and nor is Merz, and Starmer resigned today. When they're gone, the replacement is likely to be sane vis-a-vis Russia, and the war will end, and people will do business with each other again. That was Putin's proposition. That's why he hasn't flattened Kiev, nor taken the battle to Europe. So this will buoy Putin to think, well, maybe my strategy would work, when in fact it looks like, with all of the destruction of the refineries in Russia, that it isn't working. So we'll see how it plays out. But right now, all the attention is being diverted to Trump's surrender in Iran.
Right.
So the Iranians left. They just left.
Well, he violated point one. He violated point one.
Trump,
you threatened,
and they were very clear, both Trump and Israel. And Israel says, we're not party to that. I'm sorry, but it was a joint attack on Iran. It was two countries that attacked Iran. You are a party to it, because the bigger of the two parties wants to end the war, and they're surrendering, and so they're surrendering for you too. But Trump threatened to blow Israel or blow Iran up if they don't do as he wants. That is a violation of the first codicil of this memorandum of understanding. And then he threatened to kill all of the negotiators before they got back home. He says, they close the Strait of Hormuz again, I'm going to kill them all before they can even get back home. That's a violation of the agreement. So they said, why would we work to negotiate an agreement with somebody who signs the agreement and then violates the agreement the same day they signed it?
Yeah. And these are Muslims saying this.
The Muslims saying this, yeah. When Muslims say we can't trust you. And they're representing Allah, who, never found a truth that he wasn't willing to lie about. A religion based upon lying is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is just truly amazing. JCPOA was a 160-page document negotiated over 5 years with 5 different countries. You can see in that picture, you've got Lavrov in that picture. This was a consortium of 6 nations, including Iran, with experts in politics and experts in uranium, that were, as I say, negotiated for 5 years to come up with a 160-point plan to thwart Iran's nuclear program by freezing enrichment into the 5 to 10% range. And it was highly effective for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Highly effective for doing that. Trump then tosses out that agreement. and Trump 45. He tossed out the agreement with no constraint. Over the next 6 years, Iran took the low enriched uranium and enriched it to 60% and beyond. And so they moved to being on the threshold of a bomb because they use that time to enrich it. So, and Trump has replaced now the JCPOA, and it's 160 pages and 5-nation consortium backing it up with details that made it very difficult to go from where Iran was at under 20% enrichment to a bomb. They and number of centrifuges and all that, he ripped it up, and now all he has is, we give you $325 billion, and you agree to talk to us about some aspects of this. That's really all we have. We've seemed to have lost Kevin in our feed here.
Come on back, Kevin.
So, Kevin, you can come back at any time now. That would be fine. But that is really when Trump goes off and pounds his chest, and he says that Obama was stupid and the Iranians mocked him, and that his agreement is much better than Obama's. To believe that, you have to be completely ignorant of what Obama and company, 5 nations, negotiated. And what they negotiated was a very detailed, scientifically described mechanism of keeping Iran's uranium production refinement under the 20% threshold and closer to 5%, which means that they were nowhere in terms of bomb building. And Trump replaced that with tearing it up and having nothing. So to believe that Obama was wrong and that Trump is right, you'd have to be completely ignorant of the two documents. I mean, I've written about it here. You're welcome to go to yadayada.com and to the blog page, and you can see that, in Trump's document, there's one line that says we'll talk about the disposition of enriched uranium, but gives Trump no discussion room whatsoever to discuss about the mining uranium or the centrifuges for future enrichment of uranium. So it's nothing. I mean, he literally has a nothing burger compared to what was the best attempt ever to resolve this problem.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, so I'm back. I think the worst thing for Trump on this, not only is the idea of it being surrender, but the pallets of cash. He can't hammer Obama over and over and over saying that this was a bad deal. Obama was a horrible deal, no matter what was in it.
He gave him 1.6 billion, and Trump gave them 325 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, 325 billion versus 1.6 billion. And for the 1.7 billion, Obama and company, it was 6 nations, 5 nations, received a 160-page inspector-centric, UN-approved deal to constrain Iran's nuclear ambitions. So they got something extraordinary for it. And you compare that to Trump, 325 billion, gives up control of the Strait of Hormuz, surrenders Israel in the process, and got nothing. But sure, we'll discuss one aspect of this with you. We're not going to discuss enrichment with you. We're not going to discuss mining with you. We're not going to discuss anything with our nuclear program. But we'll discuss the disposition of some of our enriched uranium. Discuss, but only after you free $325 billion will we even discuss it and remove all sanctions. You literally have to be insane to believe, to say what Trump is saying or to believe it. And we're not fans of Obama, so we're not promoting this because of Obama, but fair is fair. This is so funny. So the Marxist press in America and the Muslim press around the world condemned Israel for killing journalists. And you can see on the left, press, journalists, and so now when the Muslims are having their funerals, they don't want to be press anymore. They want to be martyrs. And so their pictures of them serving within Hamas are part of their eulogies and their funerals. And so you've got the Islamic Jihad and Hamas admitting, oh yeah, well, they were all jihadists. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All depends on your perspective. If they're trying to present them in the West, those dastardly Israelis, they killed journalists. And if you're going to be at their funeral, oh, those heroic jihadists, they became martyrs.
I have never understood the idea that there are rules of war. I have never understood that. I understand why civilized nations, when they're going to banter back and forth and have economic war and like a Geneva Convention, how you treat prisoners of war.
I understand that. That makes sense. Yeah, but when it comes to now war crimes, can you imagine? You enter a nuclear holocaust because you push the thing in Ukraine too far, or the thing in Iran too far, and you engage in a nuclear holocaust. Do you think that the losing nation is going to protest and say, when you destroyed our country, you violated the rules of war, so we're going to sue you? No. I mean, it's. I can tell you that there are countries that pay attention to them. I know Russia does. Russia is very much into what's legal and not legal in terms of the rule of law pursuant to war. Israel happens to be very aware of it as well. The United States is clueless in it, but the whole idea of the rules of war is pretty asinine. People fight wars however they think they have a best chance of prevailing, and if that doesn't work, and their very survival of any human, by the way, and under any circumstance, if your survival is dependent upon you doing something that the other side is not likely to agree with, you really don't give two rat's asses. You just don't care. You're going to do what you need to do to survive, and so the rules of war are not going to apply.
Here, Starmer. Bye-bye.
Yeah. What's amazing here is just a couple of years ago, when everyone realized that the Labour Party in the UK was done, and their opposition to Brexit really did them in. And so many political scandals did them in. That Starmer did something that heretofore was thought impossible. He not only won the parliamentary election, but he didn't even need a parliamentary election to win. His party captured 411 out of 650 seats. It was a landslide. It was just stunning. And then now, after 2 years of liberal platitudes, and we love Muslims and we hate our own people, gangs of Muslims that raped little Irish and English girls, we need to have two standards. We have one standard for the Muslim, one standard for the rest of us. You can't speak out against the religion that is inspiring terrorism against our people and the rape of our children. After 2 years of that, most in the UK are done. And then after his ongoing threats of war against Russia, when he doesn't have a military, has gotten to be really old. And then members of his party were caught up in the Epstein thing, and it brought his prime ministership down. So if he, who never met Epstein, who never participated in anything related to Epstein, is brought down because a confidant of his was tangentially engaged with Epstein. What does it say about the United States and Epstein's closest friend, his number one enabler,
Mhm.
is still president of the United States?
Yeah. People, that is something to distract from, no doubt about it. There has enough fire there that a nuclear war won't distract from it, you know?
No. 10 Downing Street, huh? Every time Satan fails, he blames somebody else. And this reflecting pool, of course, it was a non-bid contract, which is not appropriate for any government to give out, to a campaign donor who obviously knew nothing about algae remediation or painting concrete or anything of that nature,
Painting,
and made a
period.
tremendous mistake with the dark surface, and even the paint is not adhering. And so what Trump wants to claim is that there were terrorists that were degrading the national monuments. They put one guy that was riding his bike and saw a piece of the paint that peeled up. We've all seen that picture of the paint that peeled up. And he looked at the piece that was peeled up. He didn't even peel it up any further, never touched the piece. And he's looking at this, and he had goons that went and arrested him, and he was incarcerated for 5 hours, not even able to make a phone call. And Trump wants to say, "Oh, yep, he's the reason that we have to do these repairs. What we did is really good work, but he was the algae inseminator."
The algae inseminator. Yeah.
They use rhino lining. Literally the shit you spray in the back of your pickup truck.
That's what they used was rhino.
Similar technology to that. Where if you look around this island, what do they do with all their cisterns? They're white. Why is their cistern white?
Yeah, there is a concrete's a weird material. I don't know if you know. I've studied the nature of concrete and the way that it cures, and the sands and all the kind of things that you have to use for
We
it,
don't
and the
paint
rebar
commercial pools.
But painting concrete is difficult. You have to paint it if you're going to keep water in it. You have to seal it somehow. When I built, I have multiple cisterns here, and there's a product that is actually bonds with the concrete that you use for cisterns. And there's only two companies that make this kind of product, and you essentially paint it on with brooms. I mean, it goes on really, really thick. It's nasty stuff, and it'll last for about 10 years, and it's a decent product, but it comes in one color, white. And then concrete for pools. The pool that you all have seen, you've been in my pool many times here during the broadcast. It's actually what it looks like. It's an in-ground pool, and it's all concrete, and it's 8 inches thick of concrete. Most of the pool is actually suspended, and so because of slope. And when we poured the new concrete, we covered it twice with things similar. One was a material that you used when you put in a shower in your home. You don't want the water of the shower seeping into the floor bed. So there's a particular sealants that you use that are very elastic for that. And then there's, for the pool, we also use the same stuff that we use in cisterns, and we put on 4 coats of the cistern paint. And then there's a very special kind of epoxy-based sealant that will also work as the glue, essentially, for a tile base to put on top of all of that. And you really have to research what those materials are. But the other thing that's interesting is that you have to clean what you do, and you have to actually rough up the surface. There's so many things that you have to do to prepare the surface for it. And then there's very specific things that you must do. And you must realize that while a dark surface, like for a swimming pool, will make the pool warmer for you, you can't use it because it gets warm, and then you've got a real problem with your chlorination.
And
Mm-hmm.
water flow and chlorination, we use mostly salt pools here, but you put in the salt and they have a chlorinator that turns that salt into chlorine. You're constantly measuring the pH of the water and the chemical balance of that water. If that water gets out of sync for any period of time, or your filtration systems fail, or your chlorinization systems fail, I mean, even with white surfaces, I mean, it will turn into an algae pool in a hurry. And once once it does, you're in real trouble, because the algae actually goes into the pores and you can't get it out. And it just comes back and back and back. And so there's a whole science that goes into it. And I can tell you that I read countless documents, because I wanted to get it right. And I was building this myself as the contractor. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, when I saw
even the tiles that you use, I used marble in my tiles. You have to have an epoxy set up as a grout because of what you're dealing with. The mastic that underlays it, the standard mastics that you would use to put in tile won't work in something that's constantly submerged in water. It's a form of mastic that, rather than being $25 a bag, is $150 a bag. It's I mean, just you have to use entirely different strategies, and he didn't pay any attention to any of those things.
When I saw the pictures of people working in this pool, back of my mind was there were two things they were doing wrong, and this was never going to work. The first one is I never saw any prep. There was no prep work. There was no cleaning of the surface. There was no muriatic acid etching of the surface, making it porous for whatever material. And the second thing is they're out there with rollers. And I'm like, I have never seen. Now, you want to get vertical surfaces, you can roll it on. But man, if that was me, I'm out there with dump and squeegees. So that stuff goes on thick and just squeegeeing like you would a parking lot. You know?
Yeah, and I would, the muriatic acid is important, but even before then, you need to sandblast it. That's old concrete. You need to sandblast it first. Then you need to use muriatic acid. And then you do not put on your color coat. You have to have many layers of substrate before you even attempt to put on your color coat. I've got a home here that we remodeled, and there are parts of exterior walls that we left. And I noticed that the paint was peeling in sheets on some of those. And you don't just go back and strip the paint off and paint it again. No, I mean, the wall prep concrete's really tricky material. And it's far more about the adhesion of the primer than it is the adhesion of the paint. And I didn't see them using any of that kind of stuff. This was the clown show.
For $7 million, me and Bankson could have got out there and painted that sucker. I said, we'd have done it for half price.
$7 million. I think it was 14, but that's
what I'm saying. Yeah, $14 million that they paid for that paint job that didn't work.
Yes,
and they're still bringing in river water.
That's peeling.
Why they got algae.
Yeah, and I think they are using river water, which you can't use either. I mean, I know that our first 4 truckloads of water, I used distilled water until I knew that the pool had the proper defenses and all of the chlorinating systems were working properly. We filled the pool with distilled water, not even well water. Water is a really touchy thing. It is prone to create life if you don't work very hard at it not doing so.
Yeah, water has life in it regardless. I mean, there's horror stories of people using neti pots, nasal lavage, and using well water, and they get brain amoebas from well water. And it's like, come on, people, this is not. Anyway, so I enjoyed reading Ruth, which you posted on the Yada Yada chat yesterday. That's where I spent the back half of my Sunday. Some wonderful insights in there.
Yeah, we can get rid of the Trump thing here, and we'll talk a little bit about Ruth. Later today, I will. That one's fine right there. But in fact, it's tied in with Ruth. I have written almost 30,000 pages, probably more than 30,000 pages now. Been doing it for 25 years. I've translated the majority of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms over that period of time from the oldest extant documents. And I've come to appreciate that the story of which all of God's message to his people revolves around is one that I had never translated before. And so here now at the closing chapters of Coming Home 6, and Coming Home is the sixth volume of the Yada Yahweh series, and it begins with an introduction to God, and then has Yada Yahweh in it. It has observations as part of it, a Babel series, a series of goddamn religion against Christianity, Twistianity against the Christian religion. And the Coming Home really is the concluding series, and the sixth volume now. And these are the concluding chapters of the sixth volume. I finally get to what is the central story that God wants to tell his people. It's the ultimate love story. In fact, it's really the only love story in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. It has the two most interesting characters, and every word of it is prophetic. And so I finally get to Ruth after all this time, and part of it is that I don't think I ever could have represented it correctly. It's there's too much to it that you would never see. In fact, I remember reading the Chabad, the Jewish rabbinical analysis of it, and it's not only that they're wrong; they're comical, and they're wrong about everything pursuant to the story of Ruth. And so the first thing I did, and I've devoted this weekend to it. So the first thing I did, all on the first half, all day on Saturday and the first half of Sunday, is all I'm doing is translating. I'm not writing a single comment. I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting word there. I see that's okay. I can probably make an explanation about that, but I'm not, because I'm not coming up with anything that is just jaw-dropping, transformational. This is going to be the conclusion of the last book that I may write on behalf of Yahweh, at least during this particular phase of our lives. And so I'm just saying, well, I'm going to keep on translating until I find the hook. There's got to be a hook in this place, someplace. There's something in here that's going to jump out and say, I'm the story. I just keep on doing it, translating, and it's tough. This is written by somebody that's really clever in their communication skills. It's not the Torah, for example, is easy to translate. This was much more difficult, and I'm pressing on, and we finally have Naomi going into a verbose mode. And what she says is tragically wrong. So it's troubling that, this is a story where Naomi, who is the mother-in-law of Ruth, plays a really important role in this story. And it's tragic to see her saying things that are really counterproductive. And she even tells Ruth to go back to her people and to her gods. What a terrible thing to say.
Yeah.
And then a bomb drops. She starts calling Yahweh Shaddai. And I decided I would go back and see if I could justify my previous analysis of Shaddai as efficient and sufficient.
Sufficient.
One who's sufficient and provides enough. And you don't, if you look at all the words surrounding the SHD prefix of the word, you find nothing but demonic, destructive, plundering. It's really a bad term. And I think she meant it that way. If you go the opposite way and you go from the back of the word to the front of the word and you look at day, Daleth, Yod, what you find is one who is sufficient, who provides what is enough, who's there to give what is needed to accomplish whatever has to be done. And that's how originally I found it. And so So I'm already now thinking when she's saying things that are horrible about God, she didn't mean it that God is sufficient. God being sufficient doesn't work in this context. She's calling God demonic.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she's saying. And then she does. She says that Yahweh was Ra'ah with her.
Mm-hmm.
Ra'ah is a doubling down on Ra.
Mhm.
Rosh Ain is the word for evil, wrong, malignant, troubling, terrible, wicked is Ra, and Ra'ah is a doubling down on that. It's really, really bad. I mean, terribly evil. And she says that Yahweh was Ra'ah with her.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, sky fell. And I said, well, that's the answer. That's what we're dealing with here. Naomi is Israel. Israel's had that view of Yahweh for a very long time. They have blamed Yahweh for their plight throughout the entirety of the Exodus, and they have not changed from that position. They put Yahweh on trial during the Holocaust. They still blame Yahweh. Deep down, Jews are malignant towards Yahweh. And Naomi, which a name that means I'm favored, said, don't call me that anymore. I want you to call me embittered.
Mara, yeah.
Mara, yeah, I want you to call me embittered and obnoxious because Yahweh has responded to me and he's been Ra'ah, evil with me, so I'm embittered. And she came back with that mindset. And what that is telling us is that Israel still has that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mindset of those who are even going to be the final remnant. And remnants sha'ar is used throughout the presentation at would be awkward times in the text itself to direct our attention to this final remnant.
Mm-hmm.
And shub is the most repeated verb. You need to come home. And so she's not actually doing this on her own recognizance. It's Ruth that is not declaring who Ruth is. Ruth is declaring what she's going to do for Naomi. She even tells Naomi, stop it already.
Yeah, it's a goy that takes Israel home.
Stop pleading with me to go away. You need me to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you why you need me to continue. And then she delivers the greatest soliloquy in the history of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. No one has a greater succession of lines than what she came forth with at that moment. And what she's telling Israel, the whole of Israel, prophetically, is that you're embittered towards God. And you need to drop that shit. And you need to return. And I'm here to make that possible for you.
Mm-hmm.
She even has, in the midst of her saying that where you go, I go. Where you live, I will live. Where your people are my people. Your God is my God. She says that her intent is to so please Yahweh with her intervention in this regard that it's God's decision to redeploy her again.
Mm-hmm.
Explains exactly who she is and what she's doing there.
Yeah.
She knew exactly who she was and laid it all out. And so the opening chapter of Ruth is an explanation to Israelis to come to grips with who they are. You know, first there's this demeaning attitude towards Moab.
Mm-hmm.
But Moab is Lot's descendants through his daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so Lot was Abraham's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
So he's Babylonian. So are Abraham and Sarah. They are related. They are the same ethnicity. To thumb your nose at Moab, which is the propensity of Jews even to this day to do, saying that, you know, this was a Moabite woman that was leaving paganism and coming to Judaism is utter nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
She knew far better than Naomi did. I'll tell you, that's for sure. And she is the same ethnicity. They are the same ethnicity. The same thing is true with Edom. It's from Esau, and Esau was Jacob's brother.
Mm-hmm.
So they're belly aching and trying to make themselves superior ethnically to people who are their twins.
Yeah.
And they have this horrible, embittered attitude toward Yahweh. And the story is, you need to drop that attitude, and you need to come home, and you need to understand who the people are that are the most influential in making that possible for you, because you can't figure it out on your own. You clearly are so far gone, you cannot figure this out on your own. You can't give it up. You can't return and be restored on your own. You need somebody from the outside to get your attention and to do what's necessary so that it's even possible for you to come home and become favored again. It's a complete repudiation of Judaism and of ethnic Jewish superiority, and a return to Yahweh and a dropping of the rubbish. And then, she arrives finally in Bethlehem, which is both the house of bread and the home of conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, we're told is in Yahud, which is Yahweh and Dod. It's a blend of both names, even before Dod officially existed under that name. And the first thing, now that Naomi is there, she settles into what her name represents and into being favored again. And the first thing that she pronounces is that she knows Yada. And she knows that Yada is Boaz. And she knows exactly who Boaz is. And the introduction to Boaz is the most magnificent thing found anywhere in the Torah and prophets. What's so surprising is I looked at all my lexicons. Not a single one of them understood the name Boaz. Not a single one of them. You can go to other sites that, are not messed up in religion, and they know that Boaz just happens to be written incorrectly. It's actually Ba-Oz.
Mm-hmm.
Ba means with, and Oz is strength, power. It's the strongest word that Hebrew has for unassailable as an individual. But he's also child. And that word is the strongest word that probably is in the Hebrew language for someone that's invincible. And that's not enough. He's also a Gabor. And so, and he's Yada. And it goes through the definition of this man's character. And it'll blow you away to hear what in an inspired text they have to say about this fellow Boaz. And in the next line, Ruth says, I'm going after him. Now, she doesn't say him specifically. There's this introduction to Boaz. She knows that he is the primary influence, and he's the largest landowner. He is the official, unofficial mayor, if you will. He is with Bethlehem being the heart of Yehudah at that moment, and Yehudah being the heart of what wasn't even a developed Israel at that time. This is the time of the judges. Boaz is the single most influential man of all Yehud, of all Israelites. And he is there as the richest, most honorable fellow in Bethlehem. And she arrives there, and her first thing is, I'm going to his fields. I'm going after him. And what she realized is that she could be an extraordinary woman, but she couldn't do it alone. That it's their collaboration, it's their work together that made both of them. Neither of them are anywhere even billionth as effective alone as they are together.
Oh, recognizing the synergy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. And she was the initiator in that regard. She knew exactly why she was there, exactly who she is. And she went immediately for Boaz. And of course, when they first meet, Boaz knows exactly who she is. He says, yeah, I've heard all about you. I know. You don't need to tell me anything. I know you. Well, they'd been married for for a few
Right.
thousand years up to that point. So yeah, he probably knew her real well. But all the lines and everything that follows, it's and that's what I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks on, is finishing that book. It's such a reveal, so appropriate for this time, so powerful, such a affirmation of every place we have been led by God. So yes, I am in the midst of Ruth, and I did share the first draft of that first chapter. I've subsequently gone back into it and augmented it considerably in the speech that Ruth makes, where she says that my goal is to please Yahweh to the extent that he is so happy with what we have accomplished together that he chooses to redeploy me. And I'm talking about, what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I would go in and have a discussion about the fact that this is actually the antithesis of reincarnation. You know, the purpose of reincarnation is to have a soul reincarnated. What Ruth is about is liberating souls from bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the opposite. And rather than everybody going through this process, there's only 5 people in the history of humanity that go through this process.
Right. That have
So
to.
it's, yeah, and it's the only way the only way that God could solve the crises of collectivized man was these 5 people are redeployed many times, 2 of them 8 times, one 7, and another at least 3. We'll find out, and 1 2. But we'll find out. Maybe the others have more experiences too. I'm on my job to figure out all the places where they may have lived. But it really is quite the story. So
because
anyway,
you have said you have said, you know, that being Yada, that doing the writing and working and everything is not something that people should want to do. It's not, honor isn't the right word, but it isn't like a reward or anything. And
it's a tough damn job. It is really a tough
exactly.
job. It's a long job, and it's a tough job. And we even find out that the Hebrew word for daughter-in-law doesn't mean daughter-in-law. It has no etymology whatsoever that would take it to daughter-in-law. What it means is to complete the job. Get her finished. And that was the purpose of being any one of these 5 guys. Your job is to be inserted at the absolute most desperate time for humanity, and to work at the mission until it's done, with almost everything working against you, and never giving up, never wavering, never giving up. You know, no one in their right mind would aspire to say, that's the job I want, until you fall so daggone helplessly in love with Yahweh, where you say, you know, he deserves this. This is right, and it's good for him, and it's good for all humankind. So you want me to build an ark for 600 years, splinters and all, and and black thumbs from the missing with the hammer? I'll build you a Teba. You want a Teba, a ship full of insights? We'll get her done. You want me to bring your son, who is wallowing in all manner of malfeasance, back to you when he won't listen to anybody? Okay, we'll get her done. You want someone that will raise a son so that he's comfortable of allowing the Romans who were occupying his city to crucify him? Yeah, we'll get her done. You want to bring Joseph back as Moshe, and you want him protected by the evil regime that you're going to essentially bludgeon, and yet be raised by his mother and father till he is really an adult. Yeah, well, okay, that's a tough place to work, but we'll get her done. I mean, that's the job. It's
just coming back to Earth. Just coming back to Earth is a downgrade. Just having a body is a downgrade.
God. Yeah,
you were already out.
You
already made it. Yeah. I would be pissed. I'm sorry, but Yahweh, I love you. You want me to do something, I'll do it. But still, I would be like, man, really? I got to go down there. I gotta be born. I gotta live. 500 years with the smell of pitch. Come on.
Yeah, I sent something the other day that is, I think, key to the whole thing. is that we all, each of the 5 of us, knew Yahweh before we were born, 6,000 years ago. We all recognized what he wanted to achieve. We all agreed with what he wanted to achieve. We all knew how difficult it was going to be to achieve it. And we just simply bought in. And when we are deployed, well, technically we have free will. We just don't use it. I stopped using free will a long time ago. You just finally say, consider me an implement of your will in this regard. This is a tough damn job, and I know you're enabling it to happen, and we're going to get it done together. And I think that's basically what you have to do. You can't go in with the idea 7 dimensions is really cool. Don't send me back to 3 to work this through, because that's really, now that I've experienced 7, that's really unfair. You can't do that. You've got to say that 7 dimensions is forever, and anything that we do to make our creator's experience more positive is more positive for us. It's positive for everybody. And so you lock yourself into that role. I know I'm watching now as we had to deal with the 31st Mashal and came to recognize who wrote it and who it was written about. That Leah, when she was first confronted with, "You're not anonymous, sweetheart, and this isn't your first go," that it is really hard. It's really hard, because what you know is that by being written into the story, not only is the responsibility level go up, but so do the attacks. And it's tough. And then you want to live up to the expectations. You don't want to disappoint God. And then you just get to a point where you have to release the whole thing. And the only way you release the whole thing is to say, I'm here for the duration. I will have no distractions. You're it. Let's get this done. Now, along the way, you do at the end of the day, say, all right, I put in another 14-hour day. I'm going to go to sleep dreaming of the ways that we're going to vacation during this 1,000 years before, we're all released to 7 dimensions, because you do crave the you crave the release from it. It's a lot.
The rest.
The
Absolutely.
rest. Yeah, you're not so much rest. I don't like rest. I don't think I would pick people that like rest. I don't think there is any rest. I just think there isn't. There's times of just enjoyment and not the constant grind of overcoming, of performing, of. Now, I'm not want to paint this as anything that it isn't. Like this weekend of long hours was really enjoyable. To know that you're the first person to see this correctly, and then to be able to share it and say, even though it was just an initial, I haven't even done my first read through, so this is really raw. I know I can share it with people that are in a position that they'll appreciate it, and we'll all grow as a result of it. And so that is you're writing commentary on things that you're the first person in human history to see it. And that's very uplifting. It's very enjoyable knowing that this is going to transform many lives, and you're able to appreciate the other players in the story and what they represent. So it's quite an experience. But I can tell you could never have translated and written commentary on Ruth until you've been through it. Like here, they were talking about Methuselah and Enoch. There was no Enoch; it was a Chinook. Is his name? I don't know how they got. Can you imagine Chinook? It's a CH and it ends with a K, and there's an O in the middle of it. I mean, how did they get Enoch out of Chinook?
Exactly. Where does the E even come?
Yeah, it's a CH, ANOWK, Chinook. And Chinook is an important name. It tells you who he is, that he was trained and deployed by Yahweh, trained and deployed, which means before you see Chinook, he's up there with the Creator. There's a very significant possibility that these 5 souls are the we and Elohim. Going back from the beginning, they're not gods, but that God began with, these are the kind of souls that I want to work with, and let's create this opportunity for there to be many more, and I'll deploy you guys along the way to get this done. But whether or not that's true or not, we'll find out soon enough. But Chinook is the second along the way. He's not even the first. First is Adam. But Chinook is put in place. There's 2 Chinooks, by the way, first and second Chinook. First Chinook is Adam's grandson. And he creates a city of refuge to protect Adam. And then after his passing, we have second Chinook, who is in the proper line through Seth. And he is the father of Methuselah, which means that his wife is the mother of the longest lived human. And we see them, then Chinook was taken before he is redeployed again. He didn't get to spend much time in Shamaim at that point. He's redeployed as Noach. And Adam is redeployed as Shem. And the story just goes on and on. The mother and father of Moshe, same characters. And then we meet them in the most glorious story in the midst of the whole story of stories is of Ruth and Boaz. And you come to realize why Boaz's name is on the left or north column of the temple. Yeah, because his contribution is extraordinary.
2 trees.
Extraordinary. 2 trees, man, on either side of that menorah, and 2 trees in the garden, and they both have their function. And there's 2 luminaries, and God's pretty clear with the story. It's just surprising to me that no one ever figured it out, and maybe the reason is that it didn't need to be known until there was a reason to tell it, and that. He thought, maybe I'll let the fellow that is the one reflecting the other fellow's light be the one that tells it, because that's really his job, is to tell it. So why take away the mission that I have given to him? And then he gets to be the person that explains who Boaz is and who Ruth is. It's pretty cool story.
I have a question. It's more of a curiosity than anything else. And Ruth, this idea that Ruth is telling, that Naomi is telling Oprah and Ruth, go back to the houses of your mothers, she says. Right. That was an odd phrase for me, because I don't believe I've ever heard it used that. It's always go to your father's house
of your father.
Back to the, I know, it was just a curiosity.
I think part of that is that they, as childless widows, their fathers would essentially disown them. They were women, and in the world of yesterday, women had no rights. Second, they were widowed women whose husbands had passed away. That's even worse. And they were widowed women without children. So barren at that point. They were 0 for 3. And so they would really have not even had a father's house to go back to, not in that world. And so, maybe your mothers will take you. But it's not just go back to your mother's house, go back to your mother's gods.
Gods, right.
What in the world was she thinking? What a terrible thing to say. She was bitter. Yes. And, you can give her some credence for being bitter. She had left Yehuda, and she went to Moab. So she walked away from her people with her husband, who died, and her 2 sons. So she walked away with a husband and 2 sons. all three of whom die.
Mm-hmm.
One almost immediately, and the other two then found a really favorable reception in Moab because, one of the wives may not have been the ultimate prize. Ruth, for her moxie, for her intelligence, and she obviously was beautiful by the way the story is told.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been a prize. She would have been a teenager at the time. She's not going to go very
Right.
long without being married, but she's the prize of Moab, and so Yehud is able to marry her, but he dies almost immediately. And both of Naomi's sons are horribly named.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
they're just tragic names, and so she's not much of a mother. So, yeah, why would you go back to the house of your mother when your mothers were when she was such a crappy mother? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't name her kids what she named her kids and expect them to get along with the other kids in the sandbox.
Right. There was
Yeah,
going
one
to
is
be
named
some.
Annihilated, and the other one's named Diseased.
Yeah. Benjamin is Benjamin's
yeah,
not
it's
even that bad, right?
No, well,
Then you
it was
Pain of my-
Benoni is the original name. Son of
Mhm.
my affliction. It was Jacob that changed his name from son of my affliction to son of the right hand. But in this case, it's very much like Chawa having a son named a Deadly Spear and another one named Waste of Breath.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what she called her boys at birth. It's pretty disgusting. And if you look at the two names of Naomi's sons, one was Annihilated, and the other one was Diseased Plague.
Hmm.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that to kids?
Yeah.
You know, and her name, has all these connotations of I'm lovely, I'm kind, I'm generous, and I'm favored. And she was anything but.
Mm-hmm. Call me Mara. Oof.
Yeah, call me Mara.
Mara.
Yeah, it's such an amazing story when you realize who the players represent, and that every word of that story isn't told for the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's shared for the prophecy of it. And that's what we have found with the entire Torah is, you go through Numbers, which people don't even bother to read. And the story is one prophetic history after another, history of events that played out and were chronicled that way to be prophetic of the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was quite an experience. I'm looking forward to updating what I've already shared and continuing to write. And the days that we do 2 programs a day, it's pretty hard to get much done, but we'll give it a good go today.
Well, I think I could speak with everyone that we could forego a Luminaries episode a day if we get more Ruth text on the back end.
But here's the negative
if we're
on
negotiating.
doing that. Ruth is part of the Luminaries volume of Coming Home.
Mm-hmm.
And we still in the Luminaries volume have to go through all things pursuant to Noach and the building of the Teba, which were fascinating. Then we have all of Noach's life as he engaged with Abraham, which is really fascinating. And then we have the most interesting 6 minutes in Torah history with the birth of Moshe and the players around his birth. And then after that, we get to Ruth. So I want to be able to do a program on it, and we've got to get through all that material before we can do the program on it. So if we don't keep up with the Luminary series, we'll never get to the program on the Luminary series where I can present Ruth as part of these programs, and I want to be able to do that. So we need to do both. We need to do both, my friend.
There's a lot of information that's, once again,
yes, it's a lot of information. And it's cool information. It's really, really stimulating information to recognize that Naomi really is Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And she's being used prophetically to speak about the remnant of Israel and the attitude they have to the very end. And how Ruth had to go through a time of trouble. She lost her husband. She lost both of her kids. She was away from her own people. it took that kind of trouble where she just constantly got more and more embittered before she finally wore down. And even then, she couldn't get the job done herself. To come back home, she had to have an outsider in Ruth. And so this is like Yisrael, the time of trouble, and all of the trouble they've had over the 3,400, 500 years prior to that. They have to go through all of this. And even so, it's going to take an outsider to bring them back.
Yeah.
It's the story of Naomi being Israel.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is. All right, my friend. Was fun. Chinook, see you later, pal. Look forward to... I wonder if you get to chit-chat with the former selves. I wonder if you get to have the former selves. Yeah, it's silly. No, of course not. The reason
No,
for that is
there's no chit chat, but you get the full memory McGillicuddy. I mean,
you get the full
expanse
memory
of
of what it was like to be in that life. You don't get the discussion with Chinook and Noach, for example, because it'd be with yourself. The bodies they occupied were immaterial to all of this. And that's part of the message here, is that the body you're occupying is immaterial to all of this. It's your soul that is used and can be deployed in these ways. And so Chinook and Noach and I could have a conversation just like we're having a conversation now. It's all the same guy. The bodies that are an immaterial part of the whole process. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rich, for producing this show. Thank you, Kevin, for walking us through an interesting presentation of vlogs as we do the vlog on the vlog, and for turning the program here in the end to my beloved Ruth as we pursue the greatest love story ever told by God.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.